Assalamu alaikum and peace. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. I hope you're all doing good on this last day of the year and planning to do even better as next year. So we're doing better. Muslim Network TV is 24/7. It comes to you through Galaxy 19 satellite, which covers whole United States, east to west, north to south, every corner. 57 million subscribers in the rural areas. And these are the people we want to talk to much more often, all Canada and all Mexico. We're also available on OTT devices like Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku. And if you really want to be very close to us, here's a tip. You can download our app, just type Muslim Network TV and download it. It's free for your iPhone or Android. And we're, of course, on our own website, muslimnetwork.tv. So pandemic is raging. It's all around the world, and people are trying to fight with it. The whole year almost got defined by that. But before it took over the world and United States of America, we're being defined by a new struggle for justice, fairness, and equity. And that was Black Lives Matter. So today, as we review year 2020, and also think of, what was the role of Muslim Americans. Now, this is a role which normally nobody knows because we don't have a daily paper or even a weekly paper which reaches all over America. We even don't have a radio which reaches all over the country. Well, but now we have Muslim Network TV. So this is one vehicle which will be available. And tonight we are going to have a major gala, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. And I invite you, all of you to join. So today we will be discussing what was the role of Muslim American? And you'll be surprised what you will find out in today's show about that. And what should we expect in future? Because both Black Lives Matter movement, not the organization, and the pandemic seems to be an agenda which is there, and a whole lot of fake news and nonsense of that nature. Muslims have been full part of both pandemic as well as Black Lives Matter. One movement to improve things, and other is how to save lives. Unfortunately, the new virus, which emerged from UK, young people were dancing on the street and partying more. Well, here is one for you. This virus disproportionately attack people who are 20 and younger as compared to the older people. 1.8 million people around the world have died, and in the United States, 342,577 until midnight last night. That is 347,577 people dead. It is good people are talking about vaccine and showing, oh, I took it and this and that, promoting, and a lot of, about quarter of US population is still not convinced they want to take it. But while people are talking about the vaccine, which is good, talking about science is good, but I only wish that people will talk about God Almighty as well. Just this tiny thing, which is 1,000th smaller than a human hair, is making the whole humanity dance. And the preachers of the world are not inviting people towards godly way of lives. And we need to have a balance, relying on God as well as working on our science to perfect it. Muslims have been helping in both areas. Muslims have been marching, helping, feeding, fighting for Black Lives Matter, and they have been saving lives like anything. right in New York, which was the epicenter, as we all know, of the pandemic. 9% of all physicians who are saving lives day and night and is still doing that are Muslims. This is what the survey says. And most of the America has more or less the same percentage. But there are other heroes, and I like to mention some of those before we get into discussion today. Remember when everybody was saying there's not enough ventilators? And president has to invoke some ancient law of World War II to force people. And actually, a lot of people have to push him to force people to produce. Well, there was one person, he's American Muslim, Dr. Umar Ishraq. At that time, he was executive chair of Medtronics. He transformed this whole production to produce ventilators. And he was appreciated so much that now he is the chairman of the board of Intel Corporation. How many people in America knows? Nobody, unfortunately, but you know because you're watching Muslim Network TV. And that husband and wife team in Germany, who came up, who discovered, invented the vaccine, which is reaching people, physicians and nurses now, Dr. Or Shaheen and Dr. Özlem Türeci, Muslims. So if this guy in Nashville, Tennessee, which people are calling, intentional act instead of terrorism, if he was a Muslim, it will be all over. 1,000 people, Muslims, will be issuing a statement of condemnation, and everybody was talking. Some people will bringing out verses from the Quran and all that. But here, these heroes, when Muslims do some heroic work, nobody mentioned them. They're Muslim. They just will mention, oh, Turkish, German, and things like that. And not many of you know, but there is another person. He actually was the chief scientific officer of President Trump's. He has this Operation Warp Speed to develop vaccine. And he was the one funding those two scientists in Germany. His name is Munsif Muhammad Saloui. He is another American Muslim. Somebody interviewed him and he was talking about his young age of activism for democracy, saying today's term, people might call me a terrorist. Probably people will still call him once they know that his middle name is Muhammad and what he has done. Another Muslim scientist in America, Dr. Ali Muqtad. He's a statistical epidemiologist. His job is to prediction. On Muslim Network TV, he predicted by April 1st, 561,669 people will be dead in America. And he also told us about 50,000 of those lives could be saved if America stop ignoring the directions about cleanliness, hand washing, mask, and physical distancing. So, my friend, we will be talking about pandemic and Black Lives Matter today. How was 2020? What we expect in the future? And to discuss that with me are three credible people. Preacher Moss, welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Happy New Year, sir.
Preacher Moss is an educator and a comedian. I thought all comedians are educators, but I like more educators to become comedians. It is becoming difficult to get attention of children on that Zoom thing. And with us is Edward Ahmed Mitchell. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good to see both of you.
Yes, and Edward Ahmed Mitchell is no comedian. He's a dead serious dude from the CARE. He's their deputy director and civil rights attorney. And with us is Samana Siddiqui. Assalamu alaikum. Samana Siddiqui is content manager of Sound Vision, who has written extraordinary 2 articles about reviewing the 2020 Black Lives Matter as well as the pandemic. So first of all, I like all three of you to give me one good thing about 2020. Now, complete silence, huh?
Over in a couple hours. There you go.
Okay, give me one good thing about 2020. And, I'm humbled by you thinking of Muslim Network TV, but that definitely is going to be history for us. But give me some other things, something which you like in 2020, other than yourself or your spouses. And I understand you stand in front of mirror often.
I will just say that when I was writing these articles about the Muslim Year in Review, I was so impressed with what Muslims around the world and in America achieved in 2020, especially in relation to COVID. And the advances we made, not just as doctors, you mentioned some of the scientists and researchers, and of course the doctors and nurses on the front lines, some of whom gave their lives, but the dynamism of Islamic scholars, Islamic law, and Muslims applying COVID restrictions when we desperately wanted to go to Taraweeh prayers, when we desperately wanted to do the things we do, go to Jummah, hug each other, handshake, do all those things, we stopped ourselves. Despite all that, I was so moved when I was writing this, because I said, subhanAllah, we really, mashallah, moved forward as a community, not just in terms of our leadership, but individual Muslims controlling ourselves for the betterment of everybody, not just other Muslims, but all of humanity, to move forward and to heal from this pandemic. So I'd say that's one of the good things, one of the great things that happened in 2020.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Oh man, this hugging and kissing and shaking hand, I really miss that. I mean, Muslim community is so social, Each time in the mosque, you're there. And okay, anything else which you like in 2020?
Yeah, I would note that one of the positive things that we saw come out of tragedy is the Muslim community rallying to defend the lives of African Americans and other people of color targeted in unjust police shootings. Racism has obviously been a problem that our community is aware of, but it was really good to see Muslim organizations across the spectrum tackling that issue over the summer and going late into the year. And I know we've been working on that for a long time, but really it seemed like everyone very quickly mobilized, got on the same page, and really said we need to address the issue of racism inside and outside our community. And so I really think that was a positive thing to see Muslims on the front lines protesting, speaking out. We've got a client right now, a Muslim woman who had her hijab ripped off while she was attending an LAPD hearing about a police shooting out in Los Angeles. And that's a tragedy, but it's good to see, Muslims on the front line saying, we care about this. This is our issue too. And I think the public saw a lot of that this year.
All right. Anything else which any one of you think which was good in 2020?
Trump lost. I don't know about you, but that was a good one for me.
That was very good.
That made my year in a day. How about that? One day with 4 years, he lost. And I celebrated. I'm here to tell you that. And I got a red hat, and it didn't even have any writing on it. I just went around pointing to people going, it's over. It's over. I think it was the year, man. You had to really adjust to so many things in terms of economics. It was almost the year of foolishness in terms of the pandemic, in terms of economics, in terms of politics. It was a scary year because you saw people. A lot of times you joke when somebody says something. Oh, somebody's joking, and people were not joking. People were like dead serious. Like, what pandemic? What? You're lying. I'm like, people are dying. They're like, you're lying. It's a hoax. I'm like, okay, brother. So hopefully we can get out of the hoax and stop using words like fake news and get back to it's either true or false. Reality and truth has to win in 2021. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Looking forward to 2021. Let the truth win. You're watching Muslim Network TV, and with me is Preacher Moss, Edward Ahmed Mitchell, and Samana Siddiqui, and we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and we're talking with Preacher Moss, Edward Ahmed Mitchell, and Samana Siddiqui. You were saying, Preacher Moss, that you're looking forward to truth and truthfulness in 2021. So you're already into New Year resolution, but New Year resolutions are not known to have any impact on people's life. So do you really expect the fake news going to go away?
Well, one thing that wasn't fake, and that was that people lost their lives. And that's a sobering thing. As much as I make jokes, that's a sobering thing, man. When somebody doesn't come back, and you begin to realize that the application of the truth for people became, I'm going to pick and choose. It's my option to tell the truth about other people's lives. I said it in a form. I said it was like everybody was black in 1950 again. Like everybody got treated like they were black in 1950, and everybody else's truth overshadowed the realities of the people. And 2021 has to be the year of the people getting their dignity back, um, being able to expect things from politicians, our elected officials, to tell us the truth. You just can't. My grandfather used to say, he said, "Boy, there's the truth, and whatever else you want to give me." And I think that is the thing. We got away from that and
Hmm.
spending belief about the things we're saying. It's clear what you see. It's clear what you're experiencing. And somehow, the media, and the media has been a part of it, because if you want conservative, you go to Fox. If you want all liberal news, you go to MSNBC. Truth. The only thing I found that was the truth in between was Quran, Hadith, and the Bible, and the Torah. And those are the things that you alluded to earlier as we started, getting back to those foundational aspects of truth, because you can't win with politics. Politics is what it is. It's a compromised position, if you will.
Edward, at this moment, it is said that quarter of U.S. population, 25% of our countrymen, don't want to take a vaccine, and through WhatsApp and social media, we continue to receive confusing information. So, do you really expect that vaccine is going to be helpful for all if a whole lot of people don't want to take it? Now it is reaching the decision maker. That the congressman from New Orleans, Louisiana, I think he passed away. And he was not very old person. Normally people are thinking, well, older people, that's okay. Now this variation coming from UK actually is attacking more younger people. But this person passed away. So do you think the attitude which is developed in part by President Trump behavior towards science, starting from his early time, and vaccine, although he's funding and he himself is was treated, and his vice president has taken a vaccine, do you expect things to change in Biden administration?
Well, look, let me start by saying what I should have said at the beginning. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. And to answer your question, I think part of the problem that we've had over the past year is that so many of our leaders in government did not take the virus seriously. We had politicians, elected representatives, going to the floor of the House, not wearing a mask, making fun of people who wear masks. We have the president holding numerous events at the White House with people who were not wearing masks, and then going out across the country with crowds of thousands of people also not wearing masks, gleefully celebrating not wearing a mask, celebrating endangering themselves, their families, and their neighbors. And so when you've been going through that for almost a year, it's not a surprise to see that people still aren't taking the pandemic seriously. I think that with the Biden administration coming into office, their top priority, I suspect, will be to, number one, make sure that everyone across the country takes protective measures, because even with the vaccine out, it's not instantly protective for even people who take it. And it's certainly not protective for everyone because it takes time to get the vaccine out, and it's going very slowly right now. So I think that's a priority. And the number two priority for them is to get the vaccine out to those who need it. Medical workers, of course, first, people who are elderly and at risk of dying of COVID, and then the rest of us. And so I think that'll be their top priority. In terms of skepticism about the vaccine, again, I think our politicians have contributed to that. Some of the comments that President Trump made about the vaccine and saying it's going to get done on a date certain raised concerns about whether or not it was going to be done safely or done on his timetable. And all the doctors are insisting it has been done in a fair way. It's been done accurately, sped up, yes, but with all the proper checks and safety checks. So I think that the medical professionals just need to continue to be transparent about the process that was used, potential side effects, and stress to people the benefits of taking this. And then from a Muslim perspective, I think our Muslim medical associations need to continue sharing their voices, looking at these vaccines, and if they are indeed halal, as appears to be the case, letting people know that they're halal to take and that it is important to take them. And inshallah, hopefully by the end of the coming calendar year, Gregorian calendar year, we will be in a very different situation, inshallah.
Okay, so tell me, preacher, did Black Lives Matter during elections?
I want to say yes, because it represented just a growing frustration of the Black electorate. So you had people like Ice Cube coming out talking about, the contract with Black America. A number of rappers talking about issues regarding the the politics in election. What does it mean for African Americans? Also, just a lot of re-education about things like down ballot voting, a paradigm shift with the African American community going, hey, just don't vote for the president, vote all the way down the ticket. That's why we're having you have a runoff in Georgia going on right now, about to go off. The thing with Black Lives Matter is, and I'll be very careful to say this, there was two parts of Black Lives Matter. There was the Black Lives part, and then there was the organizational part. And I think there's a problem with people separating the two. Because when I read the fine print for Black Lives Matter, it really wasn't about Black families, really looking at Black movements that came before them. I was really pushed about Black trans, LGBTQ type issues. So, and then you also have to look at the fact that you had a plethora of things going on that really aggravated and irritated and enlightened the African American community. Ahmed Arbery came before George Floyd. And it's almost like constantly you're just bombarded with all these pictures, all these videos all of a sudden. And if you look at some of the videos, they were from 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And it goes all the way back to, the Tamir Rices and it's just so much that we think that this just popped up. This has been laying there for years. We have to look at the fact that, we've been ineffective with laws in some regards. And being able to put out policy that really said, hey, listen, we're going to address fundamental injustice. And, George Floyd was, we've just had enough. So the Black Lives Matter movement, I'm like, is it a movement or is it just people going, this is a situation? Because for one of the few times in history, you had a movement that it was a leaderless movement. So you didn't have a point of reference leading these marches. There was no Jesse Jackson. There was no Al Sharpton. You didn't have that. And so all over America, you have these Black Lives Matters protests popping up. But, who are the leaders? And I think that was something that was interesting. We haven't had that in a while.
So, Samana Siddiqui, you have written an article about Muslim participation in the Black Lives Matter in 2020. And in that article, it says that 65% Muslims expressed support in building coalition with Black Lives Matter as compared to the rest of the country, which is only 44%. You want to elaborate on that why there is a higher level of support from the Muslim community as compared to the general population?
Well, first and foremost, I think as the ISPD, what's been noted statistically, African Americans are 1/5 of the Muslim community in the United States. So, if we ourselves are not African American, we have family members who are, we have friends who are, our imam might be a Black Muslim, or the imams we follow or listen to. So, we're very connected in that way because Black Islam came to America through Black Muslims. It's part of the soil. So it's part of who we are as a community. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have issues with racism. Of course we do. And as Brother Edward had pointed out earlier, this is something we've struggled with for a very long time. But the fact that we support Black Lives Matter is part of it is, of course, that Black Muslims are part of our community. They're part of who we are, but also very much Quranic teachings, Islamic teachings, which have from the start, even of course, Muslims have fell short historically, have always emphasized the unity of that humanity is all from one God. And that very well-known verse of the Quran, Surah chapter 49, verse 13, God created you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another. And the Prophet's last sermon, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, his last sermon, in which he emphasizes that there's no superiority for one human being over another due to linguistics or race or any other. The only criteria for superiority, in other words, is piety and connection to God. So these Islamic teachings do affect how we see the whole issue of racism. We have and the whole issue of the place of the African American, Black Muslims, Black people in America. We have a different kind of experience if we are not Black ourselves. I think that makes a big difference. So it doesn't surprise me at all, honestly, that Muslims would be more supportive of Black Lives Matter. I also wanted to address one thing about the media. We cannot discount, especially amongst younger Muslims, Generation Z. I'm not even talking about millennials as much as Generation Z, people who are 20 or 18 and under now. The effect of things like TikTok, Twitter, and all these different platforms, because we don't have, unlike I'm Generation X, I grew up in the 80s. And at that time, news was what ABC, NBC, CBS told you. Today, how do we find out about George Floyd? It was a camera phone video on Twitter. That's where it started. And that's where the movement got built. And I think Brother Preacher Moss's point is valid, that we don't have one singular figure like we had Martin Luther King Jr., we had Jesse Jackson in the past. We don't have that because it's very disparate, because social media has in some ways leveled the playing field. So you don't necessarily need to connect a movement to a face the way we did 50 years ago. But on the other hand, I just read something this morning about how America is not, when it comes to race relations, where we were in 1968. We've actually moved forward. The majority of Americans support some level. They number one agree that there is police brutality against African Americans, majority, which is a big shift from 50 years ago, more than 50 years ago. And part of that is due to this decentralization of the media, more access to sharing platforms like Twitter, like TikTok and things like that. So I think we're going to see some very interesting developments, inshallah, in 2021. I think some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. But I think that one thing that has been moved forward more quickly because of the state of the media is that because we don't have gatekeepers like we used to, we have more access to information. And that access to information is, we have to be careful how we present it and how we access it and how we use it. So I think that's going to be something we should watch for in 2021 and use it wisely as a community.
We'll take a short break, but once we come back from the break, I'd like to discuss with you an interesting phenomena. George Floyd was murdered in the constituency, which is represented by a Muslim congresswoman, Ilhan Omar. The place where that incident took place, that he presented a $20 bill, which an African-American employee of a Arab Muslim shop, Mahmoud Abu Maile, who called the police when the murder took place. And when the protest began, there is a gentleman named Ruhul Islam, which literally means spirit of Islam. He had the restaurant there, Gandhi restaurant, and that's where all the protesters will do the meeting. That's where the medics will be, who will be treating, and a whole lot of things. So I like you to get into the complexity of our involvement, a good or the bad aspect of it, as we take this break. You're watching Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and with me is Preacher Moss, Edward Mitchells, and Samana Siddiqui. We'll be right back after these messages.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adam. You remember me. I appeared in so many episodes that Sound Vision has put on the market. No matter what. Hey, what's happening? Hey, oh, sorry. Lockdown is what it is. Well, continuing here. In this lockdown, Sound Vision never stops thinking about you, the viewer. We'll have to get back into production again, online and inline. Everybody in their own space, even me. Although I'm stuck with Lanisa.
Salam! Salam! Salam!
I know, you were shocked too. Well, let me continue. This is what I was going to say. Salam! 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 Cut! Finally, I get my own screen time again. Thank God. And so we invested in new equipment to bring you even better production with new songs and new singers and animations. Well, here are a few clips. And Sound Vision has brought all this into your home, making Islamic values and teachings easy. And if you know me, Adam, a multi-talented actor, well, sometimes I'm an actor and the reporter and the... Oh, that's enough. Let's move on to the next section. Well, you can watch these new episodes on our new app at www.adamsworldapp.com. We have previews happening every day on Muslim Network TV. Sound Vision has been serving generations, moving and changing with the times. We are all faithfully connected. That is a huge blessing. Your donation helps keep these programs available now and into the future. We take this job of helping tomorrow's Muslims today seriously, and you should too. Today, we need your help. Children absorb and learn from everything they encounter. Make that wholesome, positive, grounded in our faith. Together, we can accomplish our goal of raising better Muslims, better neighbors, and better citizens. Please donate generously. It's an investment in our future. To finish, let me tell you, there are new scripts of my new mission. And it is something that I enjoy talking about. My new mission is space. Houston, we do not have a problem. Salam, see you soon. Me too. Assalamu alaikum.
I love Adam's World because it makes me learn in a fun way. That Adam has a green face and orange hair. I like this song. I like how Adam sings. I like Adam's World because it makes me happy. What? No.
And here's Adam and here's Anissa.
Adam is and his sister.
Adam is a boy and he is really smart.
Download the new Adam's World app at adamsworldapp.com and let's help tomorrow's Muslims today.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid. Before the break, I mentioned to you the complexity of, within the Muslim community. The George Floyd police was called in by an employee of a store owned by Arab Muslim, Mahmoud Abu Mayele, and he was not present there. And when the employee told him what is happening, he said, call the police on police. So the Muslim presence into small shopkeepers and neighborhood stores have often come in conflict with the consumers. Do you think here, there was a lot of social media attacks on Brother Mahmoud, who I don't know personally, that why in the world did he call for $20 problem the police? So, Brother Edward, you might probably, being at CARE, come across many cases like that in which Muslim businessmen is coming in conflict with the communities.
So no, not often, actually. CARE, we're a civil rights organization, so most of the complaints we get involve anti-Muslim discrimination, not necessarily someone reporting that a Muslim has engaged in some sort of injustice against them. However, as a lawyer, I have been contacted in a few different occasions about issues related to Muslim-owned businesses, especially in African-American neighborhoods, some conflict between them and the local neighborhood. And I mean, honestly, my first thought, if not my first word, is, if you're operating a store that sells, for example, cigarettes or alcohol or other such things, then you've got a bigger problem than whatever it is you're calling me about. And I think it's a horrible look for the Muslim community to have people selling those sort of things while they've got a name tag that says Muhammad on their shirt. But I digress. As for the issue with George Floyd, I think the owner of that store expressed extreme regret about what happened. My understanding is he was not present when the police were called over the $20 bill, but that his clerk was acting out the store policy, which obviously he has since rescinded and recognized why it's a problem to call the police for something that minor and unproven. So I think, for Muslim business owners and Muslims in general who are not African-American, I think we're going to be seeing a heightened sense of caution about how they speak to and deal with African-Americans and African-American Muslims in particular, because a lot of this stuff can be resolved with a better understanding of each other and more caution in how we deal with each other, inshallah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know in Chicago it has started a movement. We call it Inner City Muslim Network, Iman. It is started because of Arab storekeepers who, most of them selling all those things which you mentioned, and African-American community coming in conflict, and it has a lot of good has come out of that. So now, in the Black Lives Matter, anyone of you know any cities, any Muslim leaders who have been very actively involved in prominent positions or participating? I remember, way before the Black Lives Matter hashtag came about in Chicago police reform, there was a rally. I participated in there. I was part of organizing as well. Half of the people of several thousand people demanding police reform, police reform in Chicago has a meaning. I don't know whether you know that there's a Chicago police officer, Bird's his name. He used to arrest blacks and torture them into confessing things which they have never committed. We were part of that movement as well. But in that particular rally, what I was happy to see, I don't know when it was, must be about 4 or 5 years ago, half of all people there were Muslims. Immigrant Muslim who were more visible in that in their participation because of the scarves and things like that. So do we know other cities in America where Muslim participation has been significant? Samana, you have written on it. Do you have any thoughts?
I don't know about specific cities, because I do remember in the article there was actually one young Black Muslim activist who was killed recently, and that was not That was unrelated to his activism, to what we know at this point recently. But other than that, I don't know of anyone like personally who has been so involved apart from participating in the protests. But I do know, and I wanted to raise this.
You're probably, excuse me, you're probably mentioning Hamza Travis
Yeah.
Nagdi, who in Louisville, Kentucky, was a leader of campaign for Breonna Taylor.
Right. And there was a
there is a Muslim woman also. He got murdered, but at this moment it's not clear who murdered him. He was one of the leaders, and there is some sister named Rina Pracha,
right.
who was also active there. But I want to know if the other cities Muslim have been this much active.
I don't know. I don't know in terms of public. Again, it's a matter of did they get coverage or not? Because maybe they were not high-level leaders who were in the media eye, so that makes a difference too. I did want to mention something about Chicago again, because I live in Chicago and I know about this incident. I think Brother Edward had mentioned, sort of this introspection and this discussion about racism within the Muslim community. So in June, which was a few weeks after Ramadan, I think 2 weeks after Ramadan ended, one of the major masjids in Chicago, the Mosque Foundation, which has a largely Palestinian population, they had an excellent event, which was held outside to maintain COVID protocols. And they actually, at the end of that event, they had different speakers, Black Muslims and people who were not Muslim, to speak about this issue, especially in the wake of George Floyd's killing. And at the end of that, what was so interesting is that the Imam, Sheikh Jamal Saeed, he made everybody raise their hand and pledge never to use the word abid, which in Arabic means slave, and is actually used as in a very derogatory way, of course, to describe Black people, Muslim or not. It's used generally in that way. So he actually made everybody pledge to not use that term. And this is actually the culmination, I would say, the efforts of another activist, a Black Imam Dawood Walid in Michigan, who has been who launched a campaign a couple of years ago with another sister there called I Am Not Abid. And it was launched because to address this issue of the use of this term very specifically in the Arabic-speaking Muslim community. So this is something I thought was so interesting that came out of Black Lives Matter this year, is that it sort of culminated in this, that there's an awareness, greater awareness of how we even speak as Muslims, very specifically, in terms of our own racism, not just in sort of like this sort of philosophical thing, but very practical ways that we need to address it. So I was very heartened to see that. It may be considered small, but I think it's a very big step in terms of how, inshallah, we will address this within our communities in the coming year, inshallah, and beyond.
Yeah, I remember Rami Nashashibi was giving keynote speech in the same mosque which you mentioned about 15 years ago, when addressing almost all Arab audience of that mosque dinner. He challenged and he used the same word that some people use this type of word, which literally, I mean, and he was not liked. I had to call him after morning prayers and sort of comfort him he didn't ask for it. I volunteered to comfort him that I'm with you. You are saying the right thing. So take 15 years for that organization. So do you feel, Brother Edward and Preacher, that Muslim community, who, mashallah, is blessed because of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and all those people who came fighting against the white Christianity and accepted Islam because of what we are, not only theoretically. Malcolm X, his letter about Hajj, how he saw the brotherhood and sisterhood of the humanity in Muslim community, which influenced him to accept the mainstream Islam. On one side, we have this power of our faith and practices. And most of the mosque, almost everybody prays. But at the same time, we have these things. So do you think that Muslim community during the Black Lives Matter have enough self-reflection and self-correction mechanism? One of the example was the one which Samana Siddiqui gave, but have you seen it around, say, in Georgia and Texas where you are?
I'll be really honest, man. The response of the Muslim community with Black Lives Matter it was overdue. We had seen We've seen all this stuff happen before, and it just got to a particular type of nexus, where the people who were attacking black, it wasn't even black life, man. It was black young life, black victimized life, and then you saw this subtle change whereby the oppressors were saying, no, I'm the victim. And I think that woke up a lot of Muslims going, wait a minute, if they're the victim, who are we? And you really have to say, I better get over here, because I don't want to be over here, and I don't want to be a victim. I'm like, but everybody had to just coalesce around the fact that, for lack of a better word, we've been sleeping. And we talk about Malcolm X, we talk about Muhammad Ali, we talk about Imam Malik Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I'll throw in the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. Those guys represent, excellence and devotion to God. That was the driving thing. And I've said this in the lectures, African American Islam, that's American Islam. My immigrant brothers and sisters, when they came over, they bought Islam and it became American for them. But here it was American Islam. It was the protest. It was this thing that separated us. And how do you build family? How do you establish family? And Islam was a pattern for how you build family. And if you go back and do the due diligence, a great book is Dr. Sylvia Chan Malik's Becoming Muslim, the power of African American Muslim women in framing not just what family looked like, but what excellence looked like. And they pushed their men towards excellence. And that whole movement is something that you can't overlook. So, that blueprint is there. If we go back and understand that blueprint is there, it's not like we're reinventing the whole wheel. I always say, if you don't say it in a particular generation, you lost 2 generations. And so we have that scenario, but we should be at the forefront of all of this. If we're really going to move on our religious identity based on Quran and Sunnah, we should be at the beginning of this. We shouldn't be reacting.
So let's talk, enlarge our lens a little bit to, recently in Nashville, on a Christmas day, there was a Christmas bomber, which not many people calling that way. And now we know that person, his girlfriend told police, and his attorney also told police, that he was making a bomb in his RV. And reason I'm bringing that is that one word which people are struggling with is the white privilege. If that person who is allegedly committed this terrorism was a Muslim or was a black, do you think that report by a girlfriend and a lawyer who called the 911 to report, would we let it go like this? I mean, is this some window into the issues which we have been discussing during the Black Lives Matter movement? What do you think, Brother Edward?
Well, the short answer to your question is no. I'm pretty sure that if that report had gone out to the police and the person was certainly Muslim or a person of color, would have been a different response. And look, I think many of us, we knew that the person responsible for the Nashville bombing, we knew it was not a Muslim very quickly because of how law enforcement and the media were discussing the issue. They called it an intentional act. They reassured us that no one else is in danger. And soon after, we, of course, found out that, the suspect was a 63-year-old white male. And I think for Muslims, it's disturbing, but it's not in any way surprising. We know that when a Muslim commits any crime, whether or not they are mentally ill, whether or not they're motivated by politics or religion, if they commit a crime, especially an act of terrorism, it's immediately results in a spotlight being cast on the whole Muslim community. What mosque did he go to? Did his family know about it, right? Are there co-conspirators? Does he have friends out there going to launch a follow-up attack? We haven't heard any of that in the wake of this bombing by Mr. Anthony Walker, right? No question about what church did he go to? Where was he radicalized? Does he have co-conspirators who are going to attack us? None of that, because when white male terrorists, and that's what he was, a terrorist, commit these attacks, people understand that that does not reflect on all white people or all Christians, right? But when Muslims, engage in an act of violence, there's this immediate, oh, this must reflect on the faith, the community. We've got to have a Muslim ban. We've got to have extreme vetting, all this nonsense. And so, what I would say is Muslims aren't asking for the white Christian community to be subjected to what Muslims go through. Rather, we're just simply saying that the reasoned and calm and nuanced response that occurs when a white person commits an act of violence should be applied to everyone. You don't condemn an entire community. You don't put an entire community under suspicion because of a crime committed by one person. And the last thing I'll say, and then I'll be quiet, is that there's a real danger when you do have this sort of when white privilege interferes with law enforcement work, right? As you said, the police, someone knew about this. Someone knew this man posed a threat. Someone knew he was making a bomb. And we've seen this over and over again, pattern of some sort of white mass shooter where there was some report beforehand and somehow nothing was done. Well, that's the Second Amendment. He's got the right to do that. I know as a civil rights attorney, Muslims go under surveillance. They send informants to talk to Muslims. If a report goes out about a Muslim doing anything suspicious, rest assured, that is thoroughly investigated very quickly. And the same needs to happen before we have more of these acts of mass violence committed by white supremacists and other far-right extremists.
I'd like to add too, I can't.
Well, that will be, Preacher, the last thing, because we got just a half a minute to go. Go ahead, Connect.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just couldn't think of two Muslims that actually had an RV. So.
Well,
one black person with an RV, I was like, it's probably a white guy.
Yeah, the RV. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I know your time is precious, but Muslim Network TV is precious as well. So it's a combination of two precious people. This is a new beginning for Muslim. And I request all of you this evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, join us on Muslim Network .tv, and you will have an amazing. So this is the best way of spending your New Year's Eve, thinking how to make 2021 better with truth, with Muslim perspectives, which are missing from our country. So thank you so much, Preacher Mas. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother Edward Ahmed Mitchell. Thank you, Sister Samana Siddiqui. Truly appreciate you being with us. And thank you, Dr. Abdul Wahid and Sherdil Khan for producing today's show. And thank you for watching. You have been watching, and stay tuned for other program. We are 24/7 Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and you can download our app right there on your phone, just Muslim Network TV, and it will be on your Android or iPhone. Thank you so much. Peace. Be safe, productive, healthy, plan for a better life in 2021. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Oh,
Salam.